Well, guys, it's now time for my Week 5 picks of the 2021 NFL season. As last week, I went 10-6. Unfortunately, I've gotten worse and worse and worse each week, which is not making me feel good right now as I'm 40-24 so far for 2021, 4 weeks in. As here's the current regular season and the playoff stands. If the season ended today, in the AFC, it's the Chargers with the bye, with Broncos at Bengals, Ravens at Bills, and Raiders at Titans. And the NFC, it's Cardinals with the bye, with the football team at Cowboys, Panthers at Buccaneers, and Rams at Packers. And my Super Bowl pick right now, I believe I had it be the Packers against the Bills. So now, let's get to my Week 5 picks. Hope I'll do good this week. So we start off with Thursday night tonight, a big one in the NFC West, as whoever loses this, God, they can fall all the way down to the 4th spot, believe it or not, as the Rams are at the Seahawks. The Seahawks won the last one. It didn't have the one there. They won the last one. Rams haven't beaten them since 2020, and they haven't won in Seattle since 2018, the regular season. Of course, this is a rematch from their wild card game last year where the Rams crushed the Seahawks. Speaking of crushing, oh my goodness, the Rams got crushed, straight up crushed by the Cardinals. That was embarrassing to finally end that streak of theirs. They had like 7 games in a row they beat them. That was bad, or whatever streak it was. Seahawks, however, got that needed victory against the 49ers to salvage the season so far to stay at 2-2, as they're hanging in there for dear life in a very competitive NFC West. Now, of course, the Rams crushed the Seahawks last year in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it again. And this looks like, as usual for the Rams and Seahawks, this could be an offensive shootout, as the Seahawks defense is garbage, and the Rams defense right now, that really got beaten up really badly because they played the Cardinals last week, because their defense looks terrible, just like the Seahawks. So it might come down to offense, unless the Rams defense shows up this week, but I'm going to pick the Seahawks for this one to get right against the Rams. Then we get to Sunday, starting off with an early London game, as the Jets are at the Falcons for the first time since 2013. As the Falcons won the last one, the Jets haven't beaten them since 2013, and the Falcons haven't won at home since 2005 against the Jets. So the Jets, of course, beat the Titans. That was a very, very impressive victory they had against the Titans. See, as much as I shat on Zach Wilson like the first few weeks of the year, even the rookie quarterbacks could have some moments. They just need time. We can't say they're a bust yet. Meanwhile, the Falcons, as always, the Falcons always got to blow wins, as they blew it against the football team. Pretty disappointing that they just keep blowing, especially when Matt Ryan had such a great game. Now, of course, the problem with this one is you don't know what to say. I mean, the Jets just beat the Titans, who just have just as good of offense as the Falcons do. But the Falcons put up 4 touchdowns. Well, Matt Ryan put up 4 touchdowns, and against the football team. And then the Jets have a really solid defense right now, so it really could go either way. Will the Falcons not choke, or will the Jets finally show that win against the Titans wasn't a fluke and get it right? Like, it can go really either way with these two. But you know what? Possibly an upset? I'm going to pick the Jets to get this. At least they have a defense that could show up maybe until they probably get torched by the Falcons. But knowing the Falcons, they're probably going to torch it some way too. I mean, come on. This is one of the worst offenses in the league still. You should have no trouble being able to outpace them. But knowing the Falcons, they're going to. Then it's the Lions at the Vikings, as the Lions try to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 2015. The Vikings won the last 7. The Lions haven't beaten them since 2017. So the Lions, of course, lost to the Bears pretty disappointingly, as they should have had that. And the Vikings, oh my God. You had a defensive performance against the Browns, and you couldn't get anything going after that 1 touchdown? Really? The team that scored 30 or almost 30 points every single game except that one? It was a perfect opportunity, and you couldn't do it? That's embarrassing. Like, the hot seat for Mike Zimmer is definitely probably getting really hot now after that 1-3 start that they really should not be having. They should have a winning record right now, or at least be 500. This really should not be too hard for the Vikings. I'm picking them to get it, as the Lions are just still a bad team. The Vikings, it's more of they're just having a tough start with close games they're losing. Then a big one for playoff seeds right now, as the Saints are at the football team for the first time since 2015. As the Saints won the last two, the football team hasn't beaten them since 2015, and the Saints haven't won in Landover since 2009. I remember that overtime game they had to do against the Redskins too. So the Saints blew it against the Giants. They're having a back and forth year where they win and then they lose. But they, instead of getting destroyed, they lost a close one. Although they did blow an 11-point lead to allow the Giants to win in overtime. That's definitely a concern. The football team needed that win against the Falcons to make the comeback. They're still hanging in there at 2-2. And right now, they would be in the playoffs at the season end of the day. So they're still hanging in there. But they really badly need this one. But their defense needs to show up. And they got a difficult task because they got to go up against the Saints, who have a solid defense too. Their offense, though, is inconsistent. They have looks like the 5th worst offense in terms of yards. They have the 2nd worst passing offense. And this is with famous Winston, who put up 5,000 yards his last season as a full starter. Like, come on. So, it's going to come down to, well, the Saints keep this back and forth. More importantly, too, on the road actually, no, not on the road because that first game was at home just in Jacksonville. But back and forth, win, lose. Same goes for the football team, too. They've lost and then they won. So, unfortunately, for the football team, the odds are not really looking good in their favor. Plus, I think the Saints, despite their struggle, are still a better team. So, I'm picking the Saints for this. But, hey, I won't be surprised if the football team does it. Then it's the Patriots at the Texans for the 3rd year in a row. As the Texans won the last two. The Patriots haven't beaten them since 2018. And they haven't won in Houston since 2015. As the Patriots, that is unfortunate that they lost to the Buccaneers because, honestly, they outplayed the Buccaneers, especially Brady. Max Jones had his best game of his career, and he straight up outplayed Brady. I really wish they made that field goal. That way we could see if the Buccaneers could make that comeback. That would have been incredible if Brady could do that comeback against his former team, but sadly we didn't get that opportunity. A tough loss for the Patriots, even though they did outplay them. The Texans, meanwhile, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that you got literally shut out by the Bills, since you are one of the worst teams in the league and they're like one of the best. But that's still pretty damn bad. Showing that win that they had to start the year was pretty much just a fluke. Well, not really a fluke. They're just playing against a very bad team themselves. And the reality is set in pretty much as you see. They're like the worst in every single category. I don't think this is going to be pretty hard to say. This is going to be the Patriots. Unless, they somehow choke this too and let the Texans win it. Then an interstate matchup as the Dolphins are at the Buccaneers for the first time since 2013. As the Buccaneers won the last two, Dolphins haven't beaten them since 2009. And they haven't won in Tampa since 1988, for crying out loud. The Dolphins got embarrassed by the Colts as they're definitely not playing good at all for the 10-win team they were last year. But hey, I think this is where they were around last year, when they were 1-3 before they went on their winning streaks, as they have one of the worst offenses in the league like the Jets. Their defense is garbage. The Buccaneers, meanwhile, although they did beat the Patriots, let's be honest, the Patriots outplayed them. The Buccaneers just got the win in the end. They got really lucky in that regard, as Brady did not play good whatsoever in that game compared to Max Jones. As their offense is still good, except for that rushing offense. It's the 3rd worst in their league, and their defense, oh my god, it is garbage. Just straight up garbage. Worst passing defense in the league. I mean to say. They're lucky that they're playing the Dolphins, who are just straight up garbage right now. So I'm picking the Buccaneers to get this. All right, then it's the. Although record-wise is a big matchup, I don't think it actually is. As is the Packers at the Bengals for the first time since 2013. The Packers have won the last one. The Bengals haven't won since 2013, and the Packers haven't won in Cincinnati since 1998. So the Packers convincingly beat the Steelers, although their stats, and yes, those are their stats offensively right now, believe it or not. I find it hard to believe, but yeah, that's their stats. Still not looking good for covering yet from their terrible loss against the Saints 4 weeks ago. Meanwhile, the Bengals, hey, off to a 3-1 start as they beat the Seahawks, the Jaguars in a comeback. That was pretty impressive. So they're a surprise 3-1 team. But now they have to play an actual good team right now. And even though their stats should indicate that they're better than the Packers, and of course they've The Packers haven't beaten the Bengals in Cincinnati in a long time. I'm still picking the Packers for this. If the Bengals want to show that they are indeed a good team that could be a threat this year, they need to beat the Packers here. Then it's the Broncos at the Steelers for the second year in a row. As the Steelers won the last one, the Broncos haven't beaten them since 2018, and they haven't won at Heinz Field since 2006. As the Broncos, like I predicted, I actually predicted the Broncos were going to win last week, but as we said from the start, their early success was pretty much just a fluke. Everyone pretty much has losing records right now against the Jaguars, and they got shut down by the Ravens, a much better team than all the other teams combined. Meanwhile, the Steelers got their asses kicked by the Packers as they're off to a 1-3 start. I expect them to struggle, but I didn't think I was going to see them go 1-3 to start the year. That's even worse than I thought. But now they have to play... Well, actually, no. They've played... The Packers are a good team. The Bengals are not a good team. The Raiders are kind of like middle of the pack. And they're 1-3. And they beat the Bills, who are like one of the best teams in the league right now. So, Steelers, you don't know what to say. But surely they're still better than the Jaguars, Jets, and Giants that the Broncos beat. And, of course, the Steelers, as a tradition, can never stray away from 500 for long. No matter how bad they are, they always somehow find a way to stay around 500. That's why they haven't had a losing record since 2003. And you know what? I'm picking the Steelers for this, as I just can't see them going 1-4. And the Broncos are probably coming back to reality now after they got crushed by the Ravens. Although their defense is still pretty good in terms of stats. Then it's the Eagles at the Panthers for the first time since 2017. As the Panthers won the last one, the Eagles haven't beaten them since that Thursday night game in 2017. And the Panthers haven't beaten them at home since 2015. So the Eagles got boat raced by the Chiefs. I mean, did any of us really expect that to them be competitive, let alone win? That's not really a surprise. The Panthers, I'm also not surprised about this, got their asses kicked by the Cowboys, despite the fact that their defensive stats, their stats overall didn't really take that much of a beating compared to other teams, as they still have one of the best defenses in the league in terms of stats, and their offense is pretty solid. But as we saw, once you played an actual good team, you got put in their place. Lucky for you, you got to play a bad team in the Eagles. But don't underestimate the Eagles. Just like the Steelers, they also can't really stray far from 500, although they did a lot last year. I would not be surprised if the Eagles somehow get this right and get this win, but I'm still picking the Panthers for this. Then it's the Titans at the Jaguars, as this could be a trap game, as the Jaguars are trying to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 2014. The Titans won the last 3. The Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2019, as the Titans... Oh, God, you lost to the Jets! The Jets, for God's sake! Even if you tied them, that would have still been embarrassing. You should have won easily in that one. And the Jaguars finally had their first competitive game of the year, but they still blew it against the Bengals, unfortunately, as they're 0-4. As nothing's really looking right for the Jaguars, but nothing's looking right for the Titans either. And historically, the Jaguars are always a trap game for the Titans when they host them. Even when they were a really bad team, they always find some way to beat them when they host them especially. So, Titans, you need to be careful with the Jaguars. They are a team that has your number pretty much. So take them seriously, and I won't be surprised if they win it. But I'm still going to pick the Titans for this one. Alright, then we get to our 4 p.m. games. As starting off with a big one in the AFC, as the Browns are at the Chargers for the first time since 2017. As the Chargers won the last 2, the Browns haven't beaten them since 2016 when they got their only win in that year. And they're trying to get their first win at the Chargers since 1991 when they were back in San Diego. So the Browns, they are lucky that their defense showed up, as they statistically now have one of the best defenses in the league, as their offense is not looking really good. The team's flipped from last year as they beat the Vikings just barely. And the Chargers got a pretty damn convincing win against the Raiders as they're leading the division, actually having home field advantage right now in the AFC, although their stats do not look really good whatsoever in comparison to the Browns. Now, one thing that the Chargers got to hope for is that their terrible defense somehow shows up and shuts down the Browns' number 1 offense, because the Chargers have the third best passing defense in the league. But guess what? Let alone that Baker Mayfield right now is injured, so who knows if he's going to be playing, but he's not their main threat, as you see, in terms of offense. He played terrible last week. Honestly, he's played kind of terrible all year, yet they're still 3-1. It's that Russian offense that's potent. And are they going to be able to stop that Russian offense with one of the worst Russian offenses in the league? And of course, the Browns defense, are they going to actually show up? Are they actually look really good? Or was it just a lucky start to the year? Like, I really don't know what to say. And despite what I said about their terrible defense against the #1 Russian offense in the league, I still don't trust the Browns in this game. I'm picking the Chargers for this, even though the stats would probably indicate that the Browns are actually better. I trust the Chargers still more. Then it's the Bears at the Raiders for the first time since 2019. The 17th game, I said before, as the Raiders won the last one. The Bears haven't beaten them since 2015, and they haven't won at the Raiders since 2007 when they were in Oakland. Of course, last time's game was in London 2 years ago, remember? So the Bears, despite the terrible offense, they still managed to beat the Bears. Lions, they're still at 500, surprisingly. The Raiders came back down to reality as they got shut down by the Chargers, as only the Cardinals remain undefeated. They have one of the best offenses in the league for the Raiders. The Browns' defense is mediocre, or actually not bad, but still kind of not good, as their offense is so bad, to the point where I think even their Raiders, below average defense could probably manhandle them. So I'm picking the Raiders for this one, but hey, don't underestimate the Bears. They're 2-2, even though they're not a good team. They still find ways to get it. Then, it's a big one in the NFC West as well, as the 49ers are at the Cardinals, as the 49ers try to go 5-0 for the first time since 1974. As the 49ers won the last one, Cardinals haven't beaten them since the season opening game last year. So, the 49ers, after a 2-0 start, they've now lost 2 in a row at home. So, hey, they're undefeated on the road, so maybe that's a good sign for them in this one, especially when they beat the Cardinals last year. So, yeah, the 49ers are definitely struggling right now. Looks like they're not coming back yet to that 2019 form yet. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they needed that win, and oh my goodness, they got it. Not only did they beat the Rams, they crushed them. Straight up humiliate them, as they have one of the best offenses in the league, although their defense is a little bit suspect. And speaking of suspect, you gotta take the 49ers seriously. Their stats are solid. They've lost 2 in a row, yeah, but they beat you last year, and they're undefeated on the road, so you should take them seriously. But I'm picking the Cardinals for this one. After all, you did beat them on the road last year, so you have the potential, you just can't choke it. Then it's the Giants at the Cowboys. As the Cowboys won the last one, the Cowboys haven't beaten them since last year, and the Giants haven't won in Arlington since 2016. As the Giants finally ended their losing streak as they beat the Saints in overtime, finally got a win that they need, and the Cowboys off to a 3-1 start. Not bad. Offense looking really good. Defense, a little bit suspect in terms of yards, so that's a big concern. And both games were really crazy last year in offensive shootouts, so take them seriously, Cowboys. The Giants are definitely a team you should be worried about. But I'm still going to pick the Cowboys for this one. As long as Dak's playing, they should be just fine in the division. Then we get to Sunday night. A big matchup and the AFC Championship rematch, as the Bills are at the Chiefs for the first time since 2017. As the Chiefs won the last one, the Bills haven't beaten them since 2017. And the Chiefs haven't beaten the Bills at home since 2015. So, the Bills shut out the Texans, as in terms of stats, they probably are the best team in the league right now. Their offense is number one in every category except rush and off defense. And their offense is like one of the best too. Like right now, although it might be a little overinflated because of playing terrible teams, they statistically are like the best team in the league, and they seem like a perfect mix match between the last 2 seasons' teams. 2019 was all defense, last year was all offense, now it seems like balanced out. But now they have to play an actual competitor, which we saw earlier in the year when they played an actual competitor at first with the Steelers, they lost. But, unfortunately for the Chiefs, although they destroyed the Eagles last week, they're having the opposite problem. In their 4 games, 3 of them were against teams that made the playoffs last year. No, 3 at least were good teams, because the Browns and Ravens made the playoffs, the Chargers didn't, but 3 of their games were close ones, and they were 1-2, so they struggled pretty much against teams that were good or made the playoffs last year, with the Eagles being a terrible team in comparison. And they have one of the worst defenses in the league right now, as you see. Like, really, really bad. So even though they beat them last year, and beat them pretty convincingly, literally, like, almost every single indicator would say that the Chiefs should lose this. And you know what? I'm going to pick the Bills. And watch, the Chiefs will embarrass me and prove me wrong like they did in the AFC Championship last year. But a lot of things are just not in their favor right now. All right, then we get to Monday night, which unfortunately looked like a good match at the beginning of the year. Sadly, it's not right at the moment, as the Colts are at the Ravens for the first time since 2017, as the Ravens won the last two. The Colts haven't beaten them since 2014, and they haven't won in Baltimore since 2009. So the Colts finally got the losing record, the winless streak off them as they beat the Dolphins convincingly, although their stats don't look really good. Meanwhile, the Ravens ended the Broncos' undefeated streak finally, as I'm still very suspect about the Ravens right now because they're not really playing that good, although statistically, they're still hanging in there in the playoff race. But Ravens, you don't underestimate the Colts. They've had a very good odds of beating you when you host them over the years. The Colts can beat the Ravens here. The Ravens usually struggle against the Colts when they host them. God, I remember that Thursday night game last time they went there in 2017. The Colts were much worse than they are right now, and they still almost beat them. So, Ravens, don't underestimate the Colts. They can pull off an upset here, especially when they need it when they're a terrible start. But I'm still going to pick the Ravens for this, but I won't be surprised if the Colts pull off the upset. Alright, so those are my Week 5 picks. I cannot wait for Rams at Seahawks tonight, so my picks are Seahawks over the Rams, Jets over the Falcons, Vikings over the Lions, Saints over the football team, Patriots over the Texans, Buccaneers over the Dolphins, Packers over the Bengals, Steelers over the Broncos, Panthers over the Eagles, Titans over the Jaguars, Chargers over the Browns, Raiders over the Bears, Cardinals over the 49ers, Cowboys over the Giants, Bills over the Chiefs, and Ravens over the Colts. So see you guys next time for Week 6.